So how likely is it that Donald Trump will reach a deal with Iran? Jeff Mason is a Bloomberg White House correspondent, and he had a phone call with Donald Trump earlier today. Joins me now from Washington. So, Jeff, you have spoken directly with U.S. President Donald Trump. What did he tell you about the potential for an extension to the ceasefire deal?
Well, what he says specifically on extending the ceasefire is that it was unlikely that he would do that. And that's a pretty big deal, especially because it doesn't leave a lot of time for those talks to lead to a peace agreement. The president also said, when I asked him if there's not a deal, did he expect that fighting would start right as soon as that ceasefire expired? And he said he would expect that. He also sort of extended the deadline in the call with me by saying that the deadline for that ceasefire or for the expiration of the ceasefire is Wednesday night. I think many people interpret it to have been Tuesday, because that is the end of 2 weeks from when he first declared it. So a couple different things there. And the last thing I would note that he said he's not in a rush to make a deal, which also is a little bit of a mixed message because he clearly wants a deal quickly, but he said he doesn't want a bad deal either.
And does he think that he will get a deal? Does he think that a deal is likely by Wednesday?
He didn't say. He did say he thought a deal would be good for all parties, and that, or more specifically, that the talks could be good for all parties. So there was a note of optimism in his call, even as he was saying, essentially threatening again that Iran would be hit very hard if a deal does not materialize.
And as for the talks, we now know Trump is sending JD Vance, Vice President, back to Pakistan to make this deal or be part of these talks. But there was some confusion as to whether that was happening. But you have confirmed that, yes?
Well, I confirmed it with the president, and he said that Vice President Vance would be going, and also the other top negotiators who have been Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, and Steve Witkoff, his special envoy. But I would say, it's not a done deal until you see him either on the ground or in the air. And the president did sow a little bit of confusion by saying to another news organization earlier today that Vice President Vance was already in the air, and that turned out not to be true.
Do you have any insights as to why it is Donald Trump is not himself going in person?
I asked him if he still wanted to go, and he said that, truthfully, he really would love to go, but he didn't think it was necessary. What he didn't say is that it would be a pretty huge security operation for him to fly to Islamabad to be part of these talks. He didn't reference that, but that no doubt has got to be at least part of the thinking in him not going. Also, they don't have a deal. And that is, that is critical to underscore here. They've got some things that the president has said have been agreed on, but Iran has not confirmed many of those things. So there are still negotiations that need to take place. And I think it's important to remember that the last time there was a major Iran nuclear deal with the international community, that happened under President Barack Obama's administration, and it took a year and a half to conclude.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of pressure there. So the current ceasefire deal, as far as we know, based on your conversation, ending Wednesday night. And you have been, I know, speaking about this conversation you've had with Donald Trump throughout the day. Has there been any reaction from the other parties, Iran, to what Trump has said, or even other political parties in your country?
Well, what you have seen is some sources told Bloomberg colleagues of mine that Iran is going to send negotiators to the talks. And that was a little bit up in the air over the weekend. Obviously, some tensions in that relationship, multiple tensions in the relationship. That's really an understatement. But some tensions in putting the talks together, heightened by the fact that Iran ended up closing the Strait of Hormuz again over the weekend after saying on Friday that it was opened, and then the skirmish between a ship. The president said to me today that I've taken one ship and there are 5 more that I can take if they get close to us. So there has been escalatory rhetoric between both sides as they go into these negotiations. But it is notable, according to the sources who spoke to my colleagues, that Iran does intend to take part in those talks.
Jeff, I have to ask you just final question, reporter to reporter. As a reporter in Canada, it seems extraordinary to get a conversation with the leader of the country, just a phone call. Is that something that happens ordinarily, or you don't have to give away your secrets here? But how does it come to be that you have a phone call with Donald Trump?
Well, what I can tell you is I've covered the White House for 17, 18 years, and that means I've covered multiple different administrations, and it is certainly unusual for a reporter to get on the phone with the president, but it is not unusual in President Donald Trump's second term. He is his own press secretary, he is his own chief of staff, and that's just sort of how he operates, and it's kind of a good example, really, of the untraditional president and an untraditional presidency.
Jeff Mason, has been good to speak with you. Jeff Mason is a Bloomberg White House correspondent. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.